Frank, I don't know how much you've been around the kids since the game the other night, but do you sense maybe a little extra excitement, a little extra, oomph in them for what this week could bring?
I have not been around them for a second. Since we dismissed Saturday, I've been with my family and trying to prepare for today. And I knew I got to go recruiting after practice today, so I knew I wasn't going to have as much time to watch film, so I had to really, really digest a lot of stuff in the last 36 hours or whatever it's been. But our guys will be excited. You know, the guys are going through it for the first time. They don't know. They're it's every day is an adventure sometimes because they don't know. It's not because they're bad kids. They're not trying to do wrong. They just don't know. The guys have been around. They understand. The seniors that 3 years ago I don't remember what our record was, but probably wasn't very good after 4 league games. They know. They've been around. They know Kentucky and Florida. Like I said after the game the other night, been the top 2 programs in our conference for who knows how long, or consistently, like I said. So they understand. I think guys will be excited. But then again, you don't play as hard as we play unless you're excited for every game on the schedule. And that's what we've tried to train our guys to do.
Questions, guys? Joe?
Coach, I know you never put really much stock into what people think outside the program or the rankings, but for these guys here, is this an opportunity to really demand respect? You guys have had big wins all year, but then you slip out of the top 25 because someone else's perception. But you get 2 quality wins like this, people are going to have to respect what you guys are really doing.
Yeah, here's what I know, and I'm fortunate that I have experienced being a part of successful teams. The national media guys do respect us. It's the local media guys in different markets that don't respect us. So, the national guys, ask any of them, call them, interview them. I bet you they all say they're good. Take your pick. I don't care which. I speak to all of them, so take your pick. I know what they tell me, and I've been talking to them for 10 years, so I know they're not sugarcoating it. 3 years ago, they called me and they said, "You guys stink," and so I know what they're telling me. But it's the local media guys that vote, because the AP voters isn't just 20 national guys. It's a bunch of media folks around the whole country that cover regions. Those probably don't pay attention because of the lack of credibility that we've earned because we just haven't been good for a long time. But the national guys, the guys that cover basketball on a national basis, they're giving us credit. They all think we're good enough. But we can't get wrapped up in that. Our whole thing, I mean, that's good for our fans. It's good for the kids, that their families that believed in us, that they chose to come to school here, for all the work that they've put in the weight room, in the community, academically, when they're held accountable, that all that is adding up to what's perceived as success. But all that's irrelevant. I mean, heck, if you told me the season ended next Monday and this was the last week of the season, then I'd be pretty excited about whatever national people think, because it starts getting a little important at that time of year. Right now, it's good for fans. It's good for all the stuff that's a part of building a program. But it's not so much the national guys. It's more the guys that cover local areas, including ours, by the way. That every time we lose a game, everyone around here thinks, oh, they're no good. Or when we win a game, it's the team we beat's no good. But that's part of it. You got to earn respect. Just because you show up, it shouldn't be given to you.
Questions?
Frank, just looking at Florida under Mike White, what do they do different than what they did under Billy, and just how talented are they?
I think they're a little different defensively. Not good or bad, just they play differently. Billy's team Billy ran a system where it was just like a gazillion ball screens. I mean, it was just, I said it all the time. Kansas and Florida were as difficult to defend as any teams that we've ever played against. And it was because of their continual ball screens and the different angles. They always were attacking your defense. They still ball screen. I don't think it's a combination of I'm just telling you, Billy ran a gazillion different angles on ball screens, and it was they put a lot of pressure on your defense to defend all the different things that were coming. They're playing. I never saw Mike's teams play at Louisiana Tech. Obviously, they won a lot of games, but I know they did a lot of like trapping and zone trapping and things of that nature. I think you're starting to see a team that's playing through Mike's personality. If any of you remember Mike as a player, Mike was a fierce competitor, just an unbelievable competitor, and he was a winner. And I think you're starting to see his teams play that way. They play with a competitive edge that's pretty reflecting on who he is. You're starting to see that first year is always hard because you're trying to get kids to believe in your voice and your vision. I think you're starting to see that with how they play. And they're good. They return basically their whole team, and they've replaced Finney Smith with Canyon Barry. Their guards are old. They've been through it. They've been in every game, in every arena. They get it. Their big guys are athletic and big and strong. They're good. They're a real good basketball team. Last year, it goes back to the question earlier about whether who's good and who's not good. Florida was real good. You can compare their numbers from analytics or whatever garbage that is against a lot of the teams that made the tournament, and you had an argument that they belonged in the tournament. They were real good last year. Now they're a year better, a year older, and Mike and his staff have really, really put their arms around this team right now.
Frank, 2 years ago, I think you had 7 scholarship players healthy maybe against Kentucky. It's still a 15-point loss. I mean, you only allowed 58 points to UK. Last year, you finally take down Florida in overtime. Do you think from top to bottom, this is now a team that can actually go back-to-back and get those 2 wins in a week like this?
I don't know. I guess we're going to find out, but that's why depth is so important. When you play the elite teams around the country, it's not the first 5 that beat you. It's players 7 through 10 that beat you. And building depth is so important. When you play the real good teams, even if your first 5 go up against their first 5, and their first 5 might be a little bit better than yours. If you can figure out a way to get a neutral and then take advantage of depth, you got a chance. But when you play the elite teams in the country, even if your first 5 get a neutral, if you don't have depth, when their backups come in, remember their backups practice against those first 5 every day. So their backups got to be pretty good. Because just by default, practicing against a good player, you're going to get better. And that's where these teams get you, with depth. And that's been our biggest challenge here, has been, everybody wants to win from day one. I get it. I wish there was a little magic app in here that you can hit and everybody plays better. Unfortunately, that takes time. It takes time to grow. And the hardest thing to build is depth. Hardest thing. Especially in today's day and age, because everybody wants to play 38 minutes. And as soon as they don't play 38 minutes, they pack their bags and go home and cry. That's where a kid like Justin Mackey, hats off to him. He waited his turn, and he didn't go home and cry. He had some difficult days early on, but he didn't take his ball and go home and pout. No, on the contrary. When he went home and pouted, Dad and Grandpa probably, and Coach Whipple probably kicked him in his tail and said, "You better go back there." And he did. And now he's a big-time contributor to a pretty good basketball team.
Coach, how do you feel about tempo with these next 2 games? How important is it to control tempo against athletic teams like Florida and Kentucky? I guess how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, we're going to play. We're not going to change how we play. I was unhappy that we got stuck in a half-court game against Ole Miss the other day, especially in the first half. I was very unhappy about that. We run. It's you go back and find my initial press conference, March 27th, 2012, and I told you guys we're going to play fast, and we're going to put pressure on people offensively and defensively. I don't believe in slow-motion basketball. It's not my personality. We don't change how we play speed or style based on opponent. We play through who we work every day to be. Now, do we make little adjustments within our defense and offense for particular matchups? Of course. That's the way it goes. But, yeah, we're going to run. It's what we do. Florida's very athletic. Kentucky is very athletic. We're pretty athletic too now. And so if I asked our guys to play in slow motion for these next two games, I bet you we lose, because then they think that I don't think that we're good enough to beat those teams. We got to go out and play through our personality.
The foundation of what you do defensively, I mean, does it all come from Coach Rodriguez? Does it all come from Coach Huggins? Just sort of where does your defensive philosophy stem from?
Obviously, it started with Rodriguez. Shaky Rodriguez continues to be one of the closest people in my life. I continue to, I'll call him and he'll speak for 50 minutes and I'll listen. And he watches all our games. He has opinions on our team. And like I've told you before, if he told me to drop and do 50 right now, I'm dropping and doing 50. I'm just not going against what he thinks or says. And then I've been fortunate that I work for a guy like Bob Huggins. They share similar personalities with how hard they want their teams to play and how much they demand it and how much they demand pressure. And then as a young kid, I've shared this one before. At my senior year in high school at the beach ball, I saw Tommy Amaker play. Actually, they beat us in the championship game. And I went home as a kid and I said, wow, I really like the way that guy plays. So then he goes to Duke, and I start watching Duke play on TV. And if you remember Duke back then, Tommy would sit on the half-court line, and then Johnny Dawkins and David Henderson, I don't remember who their small forward was, they wouldn't let you make an entry pass. And they made your life impossible. So from watching those teams play, with what I've learned from Shaky and what I've learned from Hugs, it's all kind of gone into my brain. And over 30 years of having to teach kids how to play through a system. I can't teach them to play like Duke. I can't teach them to play like Hugs. I got to teach them to play like me, like I want them to play. I've come up with some principles and thoughts that's a combination of those three things, along with my own mind, creating a vision in what we teach and being consistent. But that's where it comes from.
See two big crowds for the first two league home games. So how much of a benefit will it be getting one of these two games at home on Wednesday for what should be another big crowd?
Yeah, I mean, it's, we're top 20 in the country in attendance right now, and we were 21st, I want to say, before league play in attendance. I might be 21 or 22 before league play started. Our fans are coming. I think they respect the way our guys play, and that's what's so important about home court advantages. You got to have home court advantage. It's hard. When you go on the road, it is hard to overcome a crowd. We're at Tennessee the other day, and they got a lot of people in the stands. And we're kind of in control of the game, and the crowd's a little quiet because we're in control. They made a little run. That place got nuts. It got real hard all of a sudden. Luckily, some of our guys took control of the game, didn't get wrapped up in the crowd or the emotion, and we made the plays to win. On the road, it's hard because of that. It's great that we're finally getting to a place where we're creating a home court environment. I will say this, we need our students to be absolutely bonkers from before the game. We don't need to wait till we go on an 8-0 run to get loud. We need to come out, and our students, and they need to let the opposing team know, like, yo, we're here, and we're going to do everything in our power to help. That's the next step with our home crowd now. We got to be ready to go. Just like our players got to be ready to go on the jump ball, we need our student section, the Roost, to be ready to go on the jump ball.
Canyon Barry has kind of adopted his dad's free throw shot. What do you think of that form, and what specifics go into coaching free throw shooting, or is that more on the player and his mechanics?
I mean, I spent 5 days working a camp with Rick Barry, and it's just an amazing thing to listen to him speak about their form, underhand free throw shooting. It really is. I mean, I left there thinking I needed to teach it to all our guys. You know, I credit Canyon, you know, because the easy thing to do is what everyone else does. That's the easy thing to do. It's like everything else in life. It's easy to just say, well, I don't want to do something different because then I kind of stick out. Or, well, his dad was one of the greatest shooters and obviously free throw shooters of all time, and he shot differently than most. Well, I don't want to do that because then people are going to say I'm trying to emulate my dad. You know what? Credit him and credit Rick for teaching his son. He's a phenomenal free throw shooter. I want to say for a career, he's right around 80%. You know, he's really, really taking, like all first-year guys, it takes a little while. Early on, I thought he was a little up and down with his production. Over the last 2 weeks, I think you're starting to see that he's establishing himself as a consistent scorer for that basketball team, which I'm not surprised. But it's after those 5 days with Rick, I'm telling you, he had me convinced that balance, trajectory, the softness on the basketball because of the technique. And when I mean softness, I don't mean the ball soft. I mean how the ball falls on the rim is soft. Just made a lot of sense. I just don't teach things that I don't know. It'd be like asking me to teach a history class. That wouldn't be very good for those poor students. You know, it's you ask me to teach math, I can teach math. Ask me to teach history, it's not good. So I've got to teach the way I was taught, the way I've learned, the way I've seen success. But a lot of respect for the young man and for the dad that they're willing to do things in their vision and their way and be very good at it.
Follow up on Canyon Barry. You've seen graduate transfers just about every night out, it feels like, this season. Some better fits in the system they're playing in now than others. How challenging is it as a coach to take a player who's that far established into their college career and make him fit the system you want to run, and as has happened seemingly at Florida, for them to become major contributors pretty straight away?
Yeah, you know, Derek, it's we go back to today's day and age. You know, it's hard to do with freshmen because they all want to play right away. And I'm telling you, the most important dynamic in the whole, who has outside of a freak talent. You know, you put, like, I'm gonna use guys I coach. You can put Michael Beasley as a fifth-year senior or as a freshman on anyone's team, and he's playing because he's just that good. But there are other guys that are good players and real good players that the most important dynamic is the understanding from player to coach and coach to player. That they have to understand each other. And when you don't, in the spring and summer, every play that we talk about looks good. Every conversation is rah-rah. And then you get in the heart of it when now playing time, substitutions, not running plays at a certain time for a specific player, not getting enough shots, whatever it may be. Now that's under fire. And winning and losing now because it's out in front of everybody. It's not in a gym just with 5 coaches and 13 players. That's a new dimension. And that's where you really learn about each other. You know, interaction with teammates, what's really important, all those things. With fifth-year transfers, I've been around a couple. You have to kind of hit fast forward on that button because they know they don't have another year. Freshmen can always transfer, and if they're good enough, they can declare and go pro. Fifth-year seniors don't have another year. And as a coach, if you're taking a fifth-year senior, you better be prepared for that young man to play right away. If you're taking a fifth-year senior to a logjam spot on your team, you're going to have a problem. And if you don't deal with it and manage it, it can be a negative problem on your team. And that's I think the biggest challenge with fifth-year seniors. But because they're older, they're more mature, there's certain conversations which you can have with them that they are better prepared to have than an 18-year-old. Everyone's different. But that's I think the biggest dynamic with fifth-year seniors is that fast forward button. As a coach, if you take a fifth-year senior and he doesn't play, that's probably not going to translate to a good experience on your team. And I think he played from day one. I want to look back. I want to say he started a bunch of games early, and now he's coming off the bench. Obviously, he's accepted that role, and he's excelling at that role, which tells me that him and Mike are connected at the hip.
Frank, as you mentioned, attendance has really risen since you've been here. You know, week coming in where it's two first-place teams battling. Are these the kind of the weeks in the games that you dreamed of when you first took the job? And are you surprised maybe it took a little too long to maybe get to this point?
You know, Dave, did I dream of these moments? I don't know if I dreamt of it, but I hoped that we can elevate our program to get it to a point where this was doable, where you can bring in a Florida to your home court and you're competing, you know, as one of the teams that's in the upper part of the league. You know, did I expect it to take so long? I told you guys 5 years ago, I don't have a 5-year plan. I'm not smart enough to know what I'm going to do tomorrow. You know, I'm not one of what you call those planners that they were real popular back in the day, that you go to all these seminars to organize your life. You guys remember those things? Come on. Were you guys sleeping when these things were going on? I can't remember. They used to sell them in the stores, the big planners, and you did all these seminars, and they told you how to schedule your day and your list of priorities. You know, they forced me to take one of those things, and I left there. And I said, I've got to be the worst human being in the world because all these people are so organized, and I'm an absolute train wreck. I wanted to win from day one. I wanted to prepare our guys to win from day one. Maybe that's why we beat Kentucky that second year. Maybe that's why we went nose to nose with Florida when they were number one in the country for 30 out of the 40 minutes that last game of the season. I don't know. Maybe that's why it was. I don't sit around and say, well, in 3 years we got a chance to do this. Heck, there was no guarantee I was going to be the coach here 3 years from the day I got hired. You know, and it's you got to line up and prepare your team to win from day one. And you know, how long? There's this false pretension running around that you can take a program that hasn't been very good and fix it in 1 year. It don't work that way, man. Everyone else makes a lot of money. That means that those coaches are pretty darn good. And they didn't make a lot of money because they just kind of showed up. They probably worked as a GA or a high school coach and then a video coordinator and then an assistant coach with 59 different responsibilities, making $30,000 a year. And then eventually got a head job somewhere, and then eventually got a big job that paid them a lot of money. Because, you know, I love it when everyone talks about coaching salaries. I guarantee you most of the coaches, the first 30 years in the business, made peanuts. And those guys are prepared to do their job every day. It's not easy to go beat those guys. It's not easy to go beat those guys when you're taking over somewhere that just hasn't experienced winning, for lack of better words. They're you know, I've talked about this. It's, you know, on campus, local media, our fans, our alumni, our former players, your own players, your own administration. Who around here had tasted winning? So there was a sense of apathy. You're not turning that around in 1 or 2 years. I knew that when I went in. When I got here, I didn't realize how bad it was after I got here, until after I got here. And you're not changing that in 1 or 2 years. That takes time. That's where Ray Tanner and Harris Pastides, that's where they won me over, is because they've been in our board. I know what my conversations in private have been with them for the last 5 years. They've been with me and my staff every step of the way. And that's why when you hear me talk about Ray Tanner, That's why I speak about him the way I do. Because I'm sure there were people on the outside pressuring him and our president and our board members like, hey, I thought this guy was going to fix this thing right away. They understood what was going on. And I know what my conversations with them was all about. I know where Ray Tanner stood with me the whole time. That's why, for me, it was such an easy decision when the season ended to make the decision to stay here. Because I know the people I work for, I know the people I work with, and I know the passion that they have in us, in our players, and I want to see this thing through. I came here to fix this. I came here to do everything in my power to make us relevant. We're not there yet. We're a lot closer than we were 5 years ago, but that's not a contrary to popular. Here's I'm gonna go somewhere we're probably gonna piss a couple people off, but that's okay. That's what the heck. Half the world don't like me anyways. Here's what happens. In today's day and age, with all these recruiting websites, you get all these people that promote all these players as being real good players. Then they get to college. And then everyone in all these national recruiting sites predict that that team's going to be real good because the players that they predicted are real good are going to come in and just dominate. Don't work that way. So now when those kids don't play as well as those people predicted, who, by the way, have never coached a kid, have never lived with the kid, then when those kids get to your campus and they don't play the way the coaches who are living with them and coaching them every day need them to play, then everyone predicts the coach is a failure. And so coaches get fired. That's fine. We're big boys. We understand what we sign up for. But then you get schools that every 4 years have a new coach. You never get any good. And, you know, that's why you have 9 million transfers a year right now. You know, but that's I guess that's like we all say, oh, it comes with the territory. You know, I don't like it, and I'm willing to speak about it. But things don't get fixed overnight. It takes time. It takes time. You don't take a mom and pop restaurant and make it into a national brand in 2 years. That takes time.
2 more quick questions, guys. Mike.
What's that? Franklin Covey. That's it. That's the worst 3 hours of my life. I left there thinking I was an illiterate.
Coach, you talked about turnovers the other night. I know it's been something that you've talked about the last couple weeks. When you've gone back and watched the film, are they aggressive mistakes? Are they just something maybe careless? And if they are aggressive, how do you work with the players so, you know, they don't take their confidence away?
It goes back to kind of what I also spoke about, is our inability to get lined up the right way. You know, what happens when you don't – I'm a big believer in everything you do. When you start right, you got to finish – you got a chance to finish right. If you start wrong, chances are you're going to finish wrong. And we are struggling right now with certain lineups to get lined up the right way. To get – what I mean is get guys to the right spots. So now you've got 3 guys that are in tune with what we're doing, and you got 2 guys that are standing around thinking and don't get to the spots they need to get to. So you got guys trying to make passes to where they feel they're no different than football. The quarterback gets blamed for everything. Sometimes the quarterback throws a quick slant and the receiver thought he was running a backside shoulder throw to the sideline. Who gets the turnover? The quarterback. Everyone in the stands, that quarterback don't know what he's doing. Rah, 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 rah. The receiver goes away and no one ever blames the receiver. We're kind of going through that right now. And it's some of our youth not making the right cuts and guys reading certain passes. My challenge to our players is don't anticipate. Know who's on the court with you and understand who you're passing to. That's part of being an experienced player. You know, but we got some, to your second part of your question, we've got some aggressive, confident players that are willing to go make passes that we haven't been able to make around here in a while. So I can't completely pull the reins on those guys because that aggression, that confidence is what makes them good. That's what good teams have. We just have to learn. A&M, we had 6 turnovers. The game before, I want to say we had 12. It's important. We play fast, and I like guys being aggressive, so very rarely have any of my teams played with like 5, 6 turnovers a game. But 20's too many. We got to cut that in half. You know, we got to get to that 10 to 12 number. As long as it's there, I'm okay with it. anything higher than that usually means we're having some unforced turnovers there.
Last question to Joe.
Coach, Mike was in here, Coach Sar, just talking about how he's trying to handle SEC play. It's been more physical maybe than he even anticipated. How have you liked his progression so far? How do you think he's handling SEC play? What do you need to see from him going forward to be an even more productive contributor for you guys?
Yeah, I thought he played real well in the first half against Ole Miss. And he missed a couple shots or whatever, but I thought it's the most active he's been in probably since in a while. I thought he came out. I thought he was on point with his ball screen defense. I thought he chased the ball when it was a shot, either on offense or defense. I thought he was active on offense, which got him shot opportunities. He just didn't convert. Then in the second half, he kind of picked up some tic-tac foul, and I probably jumped his tail. Not probably, I did jump his tail, but I looking back, I probably shouldn't have done it because he actually had played well in the first half. I should have just kind of told him, hey, stop that, but come on, man, you're playing well, keep it up. And I think that kind of made him revert to the last 2 weeks. But it was good to see him play aggressive again. He was aggressive, and when Mike plays aggressive and he chases that ball, he gives us a chance to really, really become a good basketball team. And we need that from him. We need that from him. He's a very important part of, and he's earned that. Like I told him after the game, I said, "You've earned the right to be a starter. I didn't give it to you. You've earned the right to be a good player. So since you've earned it, believe in it and go do it. Stop worrying about this and that. Just go do it." And he's got a lot of pride and he cares. So when they call a foul on him and he knows he was in the wrong place, he kind of drops his head a little bit. He's got to learn how to just let that go. And I got to learn how to manage him a little bit better. Thank you.